The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast NH. This is a podcast designed by writers for writers on the journey to being published. Joined Mandra Biscornet.
It was so healthy and nutritious.
Deborah Monk.
Can we open each podcast with a dance number?
Shelly Devlin.
It was so full of inspiration and sparkles.
Every Tuesday morning live on YouTube. And make sure you subscribe to catch the podcast anytime on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, or your favorite podcast catcher. It's time to be inspired, feel empowered, and be well with the Writer's Block Podcast NH.
And welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast. I'm Mandra.
I'm Debbie.
And I'm Shelly.
Thank you for joining us at the Writer's Block, where our mission is to inspire, empower, and help people be well. We are streaming live on Facebook this Tuesday morning, and we are so excited to bring you our first anniversary show.
Yay!
We're going to do some
Noisemakers.
celebrating. We have the studio full of noisemakers, champagne, we have cake with sparkling candles on them.
That made Mandra and Jonathan both very nervous.
Really nervous with the...
Well, you put them in front of the TV.
It was some open flame in front of the TV screen. That was a problem.
Not good with the electronics.
So, ladies, let's toast.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Jonathan to
Cheers.
our first year of the Writer's Block Podcast.
Happy anniversary.
Perfect sound effects.
So we're going to get started with talking about how it all began, because it kind of is a funny story about how we met and got together as a writers group, and then how that parlayed into actually doing a podcast. So I think we have Debbie to thank for the actual writers group, right?
Yes. Well, in a way, me, but...
Who do we have to thank for the
Extra
rerun?
music.
That was good, huh?
And we have some music in the background.
I think we've told the story of our writing group meeting before, but it was, I met Shelly. A mutual friend introduced us, and I met Shelly, and I thought I want to be her friend for life. And she said she wanted to write a book, and even then she said she wanted to write two. At the time, I said maybe it's really just one. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I gave you bad advice right from the beginning.
Maybe that's what the problem is.
And so that's how. So she said she wanted to write a book, and
and I had sort of started.
You had already given me,
I had given you some pages to read, and you said, "All right, well now I have a couple people that want to write a memoir type book."
Right.
And you got us all together.
I did.
There were 5 of us originally.
Yes.
And we started meeting.
But then how did we end up in the garage? I mean, I said, hey, I have a garage.
Well,
What did you do with the other 2 people? That's what our listeners want to know.
they couldn't keep up.
There was some attrition along the way. We did. We started meeting. We met at your house once. We met at another woman's home. And I think some scheduling stuff and some life stuff on their end.
Well, and writing a book is a huge, huge commitment.
It is.
And a lot of, a good amount of people want to do it.
Yeah.
And, Jody was in our group, and she's a fabulous writer. She's an incredible writer. I wish I was as good as she is. But, just with the way, whatever's going on in her life and stuff, that it just sometimes you may have the material, you may have the skill, you just may not have the time or the commitment.
Right. We were pretty solid. Like every other week, we were sending pages. We had deadlines.
And then we started a podcast.
I was going to say,
and
she
stopped
said
writing.
Yes.
Not true, though.
But so, we did have a few kind of fall off the writing wagon there. And
walk me through the, because I've seen bits and pieces of it on Deb's phone with the 3 of you attempting to start this on a couch in a garage.
That's where I think the story gets kind of interesting, because everybody loves a David and Goliath story, if you will. And we were meeting at the kitchen, the 3 of us. We've been meeting for over a year at that point, quite regularly.
And some bully came along and told you couldn't meet there anymore?
No. We still meet there. That's our writing group.
I actually said, ladies,
we're so funny.
I said, this is such good stuff. Like, not only do we get the edits done and we're moving forward in each of our own, with our own projects, but we're pretty darn funny. Like, it's kind of entertaining just to be part of the group.
Which one of you is George Costanza? Which one of you says this right here? This is the
A show about nothing.
This
I
is
think
the
that
show.
was me.
Mandra.
I'm like, how can we bottle
Yes.
this? Because there's got to be other people out there that want to write, that would love to have some accountability, would love to have some feedback, and what we were learning along the way,
Right.
and be completely entertained by.
And it's not a garage that I had. The reason why we
Well,
connected
wait, no,
with
we're
that
still
was
at-
because
we're
it was
still
the
at the
library.
kitchen.
So we said,
Oh, we're
let's.
still at
I
the
bet
kitchen?
we're still
Yeah,
at the
we're still
kitchen.
at the kitchen.
So
Okay.
we
Yeah,
thought.
let's speed the story
I
up
was
a
like,
little bit. I'm falling
alright,
asleep over here.
All right.
Okay.
So we thought, okay, we could take videos of ourselves. We'll take videos of ourselves meeting, and we'll put them
Right.
up on YouTube or something.
Yes.
Right? That was the initial thought.
Yes,
And
and-
Shelly said, "I have a garage we can do that in."
Well, the garage isn't really a garage; it's a library.
Yes,
so
but
that's
and
why
it's
it connected.
great. And it's
was
beautiful.
because
Yes.
it's like that redone one car she shed, and it is a
Right.
giant library.
And it has
Yes.
a
Like, what
chandelier
how
and a
appropriate,
huge
right?
couch.
So we met there
It's our film studio.
on a really cold day.
Very cold. And
It
it,
was like
wasn't
winter.
heated. And
Well,
wait,
because you don't have to heat books. So
No.
they're fine.
Right.
Yeah, they're fine.
So we were freezing.
and I did choreograph an opening dance number, which the ladies were kind enough to do with me. Which
So
It
first
was
of all,
singing and dancing.
we were
Deb.
singing and dancing.
When I said we should bottle this, we should video ourselves, Deb said that's a
That's a dumb
stupid
idea. I thought we're not that funny.
But
we're really
she
not.
went along with it. And then when she said we
You're
should
not.
do we
It's
should
okay, though.
But what she did have me on is that I do know that as a writer how lonely that is. And so when she said that other people would like to be part of this group, I thought, yes, I've been looking for this group all my life. So that's how she got me hooked. That and the dance number.
So I will tell you, and my writing has taken a backseat with other stuff going on, but when you guys did inspire me to pick up the pen, so to speak, and start writing.
Cheers.
But I could hear your dialogue about show not tell going through my head over and over again. So things that you may not even realize that you've said on the show have helped people. If it helped me,
Right.
it had to have helped our listeners.
Right. And we know it inspired Dave. We
Correct.
had Dave Garofalo
Right.
on the show who, from listening to the podcast, had a book that he had put in a drawer.
15 years, I think he said he had been taking it out
Well,
off and on.
that's a different book.
Okay.
That's a book on cigars.
Right.
The
But
book on promotions,
yeah.
he started writing after the podcast started
Right.
Yeah.
and banged through it.
Yeah, and he is going to be our total success story. He's going to.
before
He has
us.
written faster than all of us. He's going to.
Well, he doesn't have to really captivate the reader like you would on a fiction book. I mean, it's somebody that's reading this
Right.
to pick up a promotional idea.
yeah.
Right.
Then,
but
it's
still.
not going to be a cover to cover. I can't put this down while I'm on vacation book.
No, it's a reference
Yeah,
for
exactly.
business people.
And
But
probably
any-
going to be a bestseller.
Yeah, but I think that was sort of the point, is to create a community,
Yes.
even via podcasts, to kind of support people
Yes,
through the journey.
this- right.
And maybe that's your accountability, that every Tuesday I'm going to listen to the ladies on the writer's block, and then I'm going to write for 20 minutes.
Right.
So we do the garage thing. We have all these videos. We actually ended up videoing ourselves when we thought the thing was off, and that was
And not when we thought it was on.
right. So that was a little ass backwards.
Yeah.
But then Debbie goes home, and Jonathan, I don't know if you remember what you said to Debbie.
I don't. I say a lot of things.
He said
He doesn't remember.
Well, when that conversation happened, it was Thanksgiving Day, and we came here on our way. We're going to Dave's house, and so we came here. Jonathan had to do a little bit of work, so as a joke, I got up here on the stage and I sent you girls a video, pretending that I was the writer's block, and it's
Right.
the holidays,
Right.
and so he obviously Jonathan was the only one here. He took the video. So then when we got in the car, he said to me, "Deb, how many podcasts do you know are filmed in a garage?" And I said, "None." And he said, "Exactly.
You should have said one, because technically
That's true."
You weren't a podcast yet.
we were
hadn't
working on
aired.
it. We were working on
Yes.
it.
You girls would have been working on that still to this day.
No, we
trying to-
would have given up. I would have froze in
Try
that
to
garage.
figure out-
and
Yeah, we
I
would have had to
been done.
postpone until spring
Yeah.
for sure.
So it's kind of that rags to riches. Like we start in this very humble, unheated garage.
Don't know what we're doing.
Don't know anything. And then a year later, we're still sitting up
Right.
here.
Now, I certainly give you girls hard enough time off the air and sometimes on the air.
No.
What I will say is that the three of you have an unmatched passion for what it is that you do. And in watching the three of you grow as podcasters, because you do have to be able to be comfortable letting your podcast personality kind of come through and leave the Mandra sitting over at the table over there, and then Super Mandra comes up on the stage and broadcasts. And sometimes you may not even feel ready. You may not feel ready to discuss the topic that you've researched and the topic that you're going to teach people about, or you're learning it as you go. But really the important thing is, as long as you can stay one step ahead of your listeners, you have a product that I think people are interested in listening to and learning from.
I think so too.
Right.
Do we want to do a quick kind of reminisce about some of our past podcasts that people might be most interested in checking out?
Yeah, because we have a few people on the edge of their seat waiting to hear what we're going to say. Because
we do?
Brenda is watching right now.
Okay.
And Marilyn Costa is watching with her puppies on the couch right now. She can't wait to hear what we're going to say. So Robin Sealock is out at the Seacoast. She can't wait to hear what we're going to say. So
let's not let our
the
three
edge of our seat
listeners
here.
down.
That's only 3 of the 3 that are scrolling
Well, I know
through
for
here.
a fact
my
Rick Peoples
phone is
listening
blowing
too.
up right now.
That's awesome. So head on over to Facebook Live if you're not there yet, and be sure to comment or ask a question, or even tell us about a subject that you'd like, a topic that you'd like us to cover in the upcoming year. But we had sort of a list of top 10, because remember, all of this you can find on the United Network.
UnitedPodcastNetwork.tv.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Jonathan. All the previous episodes are there. So if you're in the middle of something, you're like, oh, what was that about character development? You can go back and find that. So couple that we thought were really good from the past year. The Plotter versus Panster. That was hilarious.
And informative.
Very informative, and good to know which one you are. Show versus tell. I feel like we could do that once a month, because that is so important in writing.
Mm-hmm. Even our editors are catching us doing it. You'd think we'd know better by now.
No, absolutely.
We don't.
And we did a good job of showing examples in that podcast. Dialogue tags.
Tricky. Very important.
Mm-hmm. Character development. Huge. Why do you? Because you want to care about a character. That's the only way you're going to have a reader get to the end of your book. One of my personal favorites, I love the verbs one, the movers and shakers of your story. Right?
Absolutely.
That was great. Simile and metaphor.
I like that.
So the 2 different ways to compare.
Yep.
Setting as a character.
Oh, right. We've done some really good shows.
Going back to similes and metaphors, you know what's always bothered me? I've always been a big fan of 90s hip-hop and underground stuff, and they're always talking about how their metaphors are like something, which is not a metaphor at all. That's a simile. So
correct.
They're using similes and calling them metaphors. It's always bothered me since high school.
It's rap. They use a lot of words they shouldn't
musicians
use either.
I just don't like it, okay?
Well, they should listen to that podcast, and then they would know.
Unfortunately, Tupac has now passed, so
yes, he can't.
It's not going to happen.
We'll have a little rapper group.
Right. Using the 5 senses to set the tone or the mood. We did some great examples of how to do that using all 5 senses during that episode. Plot points.
Yes.
That was a big one for you, Deb.
Oh, yeah.
To take us through even what that was and how to do it.
Yeah.
And then another good one for plot was character-driven versus plot-driven books, and how to know the difference and which one it is. We also read some good examples on that one, so people would know the difference. So if you're at a particular point in your project, it is well worth it to go back and take a look at a topic that we've covered.
It's like a giant reference, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
So going back and taking a look at fabulous things. I think showing, not telling, and telling, not showing, that I get flipped around all the time because I talk 24/7. So talking and writing are 2 different things.
I was told that I
every
show and then I tell, and then I tell again and really beat you over the head with it. So I have to really work on just the showing and
Leave it at that.
I like to show. Then I'll tell you
some
what I showed.
breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs.
So that's an important one. What do we have going on over on Facebook Live?
They're just there, just patiently, sending us hearts and loves. And we have a couple of private messages that just came in. Deb, you've got some written right there that we've got popped in on an email.
Yep. KN, he's a Facebook public follower and avid YouTube viewer of the Writer's Block NH. KN writes, "Good morning, ladies. On your 1-year anniversary, you really should give some consideration to changing the name of the podcast to the Writer's Unblocked. The amount of useful, that's clever, isn't it?
That is.
The amount of useful and pertinent information, inspiring guests, and shared personal experiences from Debby, Mandra, and Shelly have inspired all your listeners to think and say, I can and I will. Whether you're thinking of writing a book or climbing Mount Washington, the ladies of the Writer's Block NH will keep you inspired, feel empowered, and being well. Congratulations, lady and production staff. A happy anniversary to the Writer's Block NH.
Oh, that's wonderful. Who is that from again?
KN. We don't know who that is.
That's
but
probably the number one lesson, and I think that's what pushed a couple people, including Dave, over the edge, was the do it now mentality. You can talk about how you're going to write at some point. Sit down at the computer, type away, grab a pen, write it down, get started right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, do it today.
I do have a feeling I know who KN is.
You can fix it in editing.
I'm going to keep it as a secret.
I had an email. It wasn't through Facebook or anything, but it was something that we had been emailed as a group earlier in the year, and I'll just read it quickly. It said, I stumbled across your podcast a few months ago and have been listening ever since, during nap time. See, I'm a stay-at-home mom of 3 little ones and have always wanted to write children's books. I have notebooks and sticky notes with story ideas and sketches thrown in a large bin under my bed. Every Tuesday during the kids' nap, I pull out the bin and either continue to write, sketch, or organize notes. It's not a long time, but I feel like I'm part of your group and your podcast is my accountability. Thanks for inspiring an art major / mother / writer. Sincerely, Lauren Connolly.
Oh,
wow.
Lauren.
That's awesome.
I love it.
So there's all different ways that hopefully we're reaching out to our listeners.
You got to wonder how many people are listening that I feel like this is a telethon, but how many people are listening?
You can donate now. It's a GoFundMe page for the Writer's Block.
For every $5 donated to the Writer's Block, these ladies will take a drink.
Oh, that's
a fun telethon.
Until the second drink, for Deb anyways.
Yeah.
But you got to wonder how many people have that bin or that refrigerator with sticky notes that haven't sat down and just started.
That was me.
The number one thing you've got to learn from this show is get started.
Yes.
You can fix. You don't have to listen to the other part of your brain telling you it's not good or the detractor in you. Just get started, put it on paper.
Right.
You can fix it in editing.
And even like this person, even if it's a short amount of time, even if it's 15 minutes a day or a couple hours a week, you're never going to find those chunks. Like I'm never going to find those chunks of 4 or 5 hours.
Think about how much time you waste on Facebook every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Cut that in half and spend the other half of that writing.
Or a Netflix, whatever. Say, I'm not going to do that at 10 o'clock at night. I'm going to spend half an hour writing.
10 o'clock at night. Jonathan hasn't seen 10 o'clock at night for years.
I was going to say 10 o'clock at night. You guys texted 8:15 and at 8:16. I was like,
I know. But that was my time that I could find.
Right.
So it's just a matter of digging out that box or bin or sticky notes, getting back into it, even if it's just a little bit a day. Because then look, in just 2 years of meeting, how far we got with our own projects.
I think the second most important thing coming out of the show is the importance of a writer's group for that accountability. And you may be able to do like Lauren. Is it Lauren?
Lauren, yep.
That she did and use the Writer's Block as your accountability. But it's not like you girls are asking for homework every week. So you should, but you're not.
Right.
So
Lauren's also very disciplined if she's able to do that.
Correct.
Yes.
Having that accountability of having to turn pages in every 2 weeks or every week, however your writer's group works. And your writer's group could be 2 people, 3 people. Yeah. Find somebody that's like-minded or even writing in a different genre that is willing to read your work and you're willing to read theirs. And you'll be surprised at the end of a year of doing that how much you've accomplished.
Exactly. And whether it's in person or whether it's you set a Skype.
You can reach out to any one of us because I'll be honest that, I'd rather, I obviously I'm married, but I would rather date.
You are? To like
Jonathan?
our producer?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh. Yeah, I know.
I don't think any of our listeners know
would
that.
have ever guessed that. Never.
But I think it would be easier to find someone to date than because I don't know why that's not really a good analogy or metaphor or whatever it is.
Where are you going with this, baby?
Where I'm going is I think you've got to find someone you trust, someone who's that really understands your heart, your intention, what you're trying to do. And so I don't know about you too, but I certainly would offer if someone was having trouble finding someone that they that could be their partner, their writing partner, and needed a cheerleader and support. My email is Debby Monk at AOL. Deb at DeborahMonk.com.
She has to remember what Jonathan to know what her email
send a
is.
Facebook message.
Or you can just Facebook the Writer's
forward
Block.
it to Deb.
Yes.
We have a great question. You just said, a heart. Well, we have one of the characters who's just sent in a message, and one of the characters of your book, Mandra.
Darby.
No, Brad.
Darby's at school.
Brad
He's not doing
has
anything.
Darby's
Brad
Darby's
have to say?
Brad
I
has
wouldn't
a
put it
great
past
question.
that sneaky little
I know.
jerk, though.
So Brad,
He's good.
Mom's doing Debbie's podcast.
Brad says congratulations, and he says, "Where do we see this group in 5 years?"
Interesting.
Oh, good question.
Because
Great
I was
question,
told
Brad.
that I'm in the writers group for life. I did say.
yes.
Deb did say we signed in blood.
Yeah, we signed in
apparently,
blood.
at some point in time.
So where do we see this group in 5 years?
That's total crap. I think you should be able to kick anyone out if they're not getting it done. I'm just saying.
We're not letting Jonathan in our writers.
I was
Yeah,
going to
no.
say,
You're the only one in this group not getting
rough,
it done.
rough.
It's true. That hurt, though. You just cut me to the quick.
Yeah.
Well, I hope to see. No, we will see in 5 years. Well, Deb, you'll probably be publishing your 10th book in 5 years. I'm hoping for the third book in 5 years. Let's just push that a little. First one needs to come out first, though.
Right.
The first
And,
one and the show.
But you'll be doing speaking
Yeah.
engagements.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
Hopefully
Yes.
I will be too. And maybe as the writer's block, we're doing more things as well
And it
in the writing
does
community.
kind of branch off of that as well. Like Deb said in that first little congratulations letter, it isn't just about inspiring somebody to write. They could just be inspired to do whatever they've
Right.
kind of thought about, put on their
Right.
bucket list,
Right.
have a little box underneath, what is it that they want to do?
Well, we've had some small business owners that have had some takeaways
Yes.
from the podcasts as well.
You know what? Let's use Brad right now. Let's each say 3 things that we want to have happened or be happening 5 years from now, and then 5 years from now we can look back on the show. Or if you want to say 1 thing or 2 things. You want me to go first?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I want
I
to
think
do.
just do one.
All right, I'm going to do 3 because 3 is my favorite
Okay.
number. I want to have a passion newsletter where I go and interview. I think it'll be a vlog type thing where I go interview people who I find fascinating. One of them would be there's a woman in California who does stained glass on recycled surfboards. Obviously, 2 of my favorite things. So I want to go to California, interview her, take pictures and video. So I'm going to do a passion newsletter.
I love it.
Yes. I also want to have my pursuit of passion obviously out and marketed well. Oh, God, that hurt. Marketed well. Can we delete that, Jonathan?
No.
And that Seeds of Wisdom, my little book that
The handmade
yes,
book?
my handmade
Yes.
books, that they will find their homes.
Okay. Good.
I love
then
it.
Turn into a tree.
And then grow.
Oh, yeah, little flowers, wildflowers.
Yes. Well, that's exactly what they're made to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Shell.
Finish the memoir, which may be changing titles
Yeah.
because then continue with the series of As the Chair Turns.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's good. All right.
Yes,
Anything else? That's good.
that's it.
That's
I'm
That
with
is it.
you on finish. Get published.
Yeah.
And then start to bring that out into, be it patients, medical staff, start to do some speaking engagements.
Right, because here on the Writer's Block, we shouldn't dream small.
All right,
You know,
I'd like to add
I
one.
don't think we do.
Okay.
I wanna
No,
hang
you
out-
definitely don't.
I want to hang out with Brad more.
Well, that could be arranged, I'm sure.
Brad, did you
Brad,
hear that?
did you hear that?
Did you hear that?
He's a good doobie.
He is.
I like Brad.
Yes.
He is.
Oh, and I just got another note, a private personal private message. Dear Writer's Block, I met Debbie Monk and Rick Peoples, who we had on the show, at my brother-in-law's wedding. My wife liked Debbie, so she started listening to the podcast. And a few days ago, my wife saw me writing and asked me what I was doing. I told her I was working on my science fiction novel. What novel? She asked. She didn't even know he was writing one. She had no idea I had a secret desire to write. I was so inspired by the women on the Writer's Block that I decided to give pen to hand. Wanted to thank you all for inspiring me to take a chance and live a secret dream. And
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the whole
That's
point.
what we're here
for. That is the whole
Yes.
point. All right. Well, this has been, thank you all for joining us to help us celebrate our first anniversary here. Big thanks to Mr. Jonathan
My
and
pleasure.
the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe for having us this past year. Again, remember, if you'd like to hear this episode or any of the great topics we've talked about in the past year, you can head on over to the UnitedPodcastNetwork.tv. Thank you again for listening. May you be inspired, feel empowered, and be well.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.